I still can't shake the feeling of eyes watching me, even though I haven't been back to that house in years. It all started on a chilly autumn evening when I decided to visit my childhood home after my mother passed away. I thought I could finally face the memories and maybe even find some comfort. As I walked through the front door, the familiar smell of old wood and dust hit me. The living room was just as I remembered, faded wallpaper peeling at the edges, and the family photos still hung crookedly on the walls. I felt a sense of nostalgia mixed with an unsettling chill. As I moved deeper into the house, I noticed something strange. My mother had always insisted on keeping the windows tightly shut. She believed in keeping the outside world out. But now, one window in the kitchen was slightly ajar, the curtains billowing softly in the breeze. I shivered and closed it, convincing myself it was just a draft. That night, I set up a makeshift bed on the old couch. I felt a little safer there, wrapped in the memories of my childhood. But around midnight, I was jolted awake by a noise, soft, rhythmic tapping coming from the kitchen. My heart raced as I glanced at the clock. I tried to convince myself it was just the house settling, but the sound grew louder, more insistent. Curiosity and fear battled inside me as I tiptoed toward the kitchen. The tapping stopped, replaced by an unsettling silence. I flicked on the light, and my breath hitched in my throat. The window I had closed was wide open again. I stepped closer, peering into the darkness outside. That's when I saw it. A figure standing just beyond the edge of the yard, barely illuminated by the dim streetlight. It was too far away to make out details, but the way it stood, rigid, unmoving, sent a chill down my spine. I could feel its gaze, cold and piercing, locked onto me. Panic gripped me, and I slammed the window shut, heart racing. I stood there, trembling, convinced I had imagined it. But then, the tapping resumed, this time on the back door. My breath hitched. I glanced back at the kitchen window. It was still shut. The tapping grew louder, insistent, almost desperate. I backed away, my heart pounding as I called out, "Who's there?" Silence answered me. Gathering what little courage I had left, I slowly made my way to the back door. As I reached for the knob, the tapping suddenly stopped. My hand hovered and I hesitated, fighting the urge to flee. Then, against my better judgment, I opened the door a crack. Nothing. Just darkness and the empty yard. But just as I turned to close it, I caught movement from the corner of my eye. That same figure now stood directly in front of me, impossibly closer, its face obscured in shadows. It tilted its head, and I felt the world around me spin as a sense of dread washed over me. I slammed the door shut, locking it and bolting it, my mind racing. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears as I backed away, every instinct screaming at me to leave. I stumbled into the living room, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. I grabbed my phone, ready to call for help, but then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A handprint, small and childlike, smeared across the glass of the back door. I spent the rest of the night huddled on the couch, too terrified to sleep, staring into the darkness, waiting for dawn to break. When morning finally came, I rushed to my car, feeling that sense of being watched again. I never returned to that house, but every now and then, I catch myself glancing out my window, half expecting to see that figure standing there, watching me, just like it did that night. And I know deep down, it's not just my imagination anymore.